Today I wanted to talk about a word, and a word that I sort of find is branded about, and it's probably a word that nearly defines the years since the 2000s, and probably since the advent of the internet and smartphones and all of these sort of things. In one sense, um, all those things have certainly made life very different. I remember growing up when one of the first years that I went to university was one of the first years that the internet was a thing and email was a thing. And from that, you can probably work out my age if you're really interested in knowing those things. But over the course of the next 20 years, 30 years since that particular day, things have moved at a rapid pace, and our lives, what I had as a child, is totally different to the life that my children have now, in terms of the stuff that they have to deal with, and also how they deal with life in general. So one of the word that I'm really sort of talking about, and that I hear branded about really in the last 20 years, is this idea of busyness. That mightn't have been the word that you were thinking that I was talking about, but whenever I talk to somebody, there's probably two or three words that normally sort of are sort of talked about when you sort of say, "How are you going?" We get the fine brigade, as I've mentioned once before, and then the other one that we always have is the busy brigade. We're always very busy, and I think these days life is very complicated, and life is very busy. I don't doubt that. I think there is lots of things that we are suddenly required to do. If I just look at my own life, and how it's been, not only through my kids growing up, but also through just what's changed at work. There's kids' events, getting them to school, getting them to their after-school activities if they have any. I've been a bit lucky. Our kids haven't wanted to have too many, but I know other parents have basically sort of feel themselves as being a chauffeur. Then there's also just general things that are going on in terms of school notes. There's lots of new things that are going on all the time at the school. I think that's ramped up in time. We're constantly doing events to raise money for the school because they need other things, because there's not enough funding as there normally is. There's also a lot more emphasis on the parents being involved in kids' education. Then there's also just the general stuff at home, making sure that there's food on the table, good food as well, making sure that they can be the best people through the food that they're eating. Then there's stuff for yourself in terms of work. I'm finding work these days is so much more encompassing than it used to be. I used to be a manager, and all I had to do was manage people. Or I was just a worker and I just had to work on what I was doing. But now as a manager, I also have to be a recruitment manager. I have to manage all my own recruitment. I have to be an IT specialist, or at least an IT help desk. I also need to be a finance person and manage my own budgets and stuff like that, or somebody else has to tell me what my budgets. So sometimes there's not even finance people that are doing those sort of things. So, and then you've got to do your own work, and then you've got to sort of manage the people as well. So there's a lot more stuff that's going on that normally might have been done by somebody else. And then you've got your relationships, and you can sort of see that I'm starting to talk more and more faster, because there's more and more stuff that is going on in life. We've got our relationships with our kids, with our partners, with our friends, with our extended family. We need to have them going on. Then we should be making sure that we have, social events that we go to, look after ourselves, go out once in a while, release some of the tension that's going on, or have some people over to enjoy life at home with them as well, and have a barbie, or have a drinks, or have a dinner party, or whatever else there is. Then you've got social events outside in the community that you want to go to. Sometimes here where I live, we have wine tasting and stuff, because we're near a lot of vineyards, and they have events that are going on. So you feel pressured to go to those, especially if you like wine. You probably don't feel like you're pressured, but you sort of want to go and be supportive of your community. And then, that's just those sort of things. Then if you've got elderly parents, you've got to look after them. And that's if everything's going swimming. Then if you've got any sort of mishaps or problems that are going on as well. Like, I mean, obviously I've talked about depression and stuff, then that raises the bar on those sort of things where you've got to go and potentially see somebody or make sure that you're monitoring your depression. If you've got something that's a physical ailment, then you've got to go see the doctor, or you've got to go do other things for that as well. You can sort of go on, and I'm probably just even scratching the surface of some of the things that people are doing in their busy lives. But you can sort of see that this racks up, and as I'm talking, I'm nearly getting stressed about just thinking about these things rather than even them having. I'm doing some of them. And I know that was what my life was about, because then, then you're supposed to take holidays, and holidays are supposed to be relaxing, but you want to actually enjoy what you're doing, or maybe you want to see some sights or something like that. So then you got to do that. You come back more exhausted from the holiday because you were so busy on the holiday. You didn't actually take time to relax. So then you come back here, and then you sort of, you're busy back in your life again. So the holiday was busy, so you didn't actually have a relax. So you continue your busy life, and it goes on and on and on. And then what do you do to yourself as well? Whenever you maybe have a sit down and try and just take a moment to have a coffee or something like that, you feel like you're wasting time. Or somebody feels like you're wasting time. Maybe somebody said, oh, what are you sitting there for? What are you doing? Haven't you got anything to do? No, I've got heaps to do, but I'm just actually taking a moment. So you're made to feel guilty for having a moment to yourself, to get out of that busyness and just sort of sit there and sort of feel like you can breathe. And this is the busyness that I'm sort of really talking about, is that we seem to just, through no fault of our own, just through life in general, are constantly and ever busy. The amount of people that I talk to, and even myself included in that, that's not saying I talk to myself, but better not talk to my wife, because she'll say that I do, is that we are always exhausted. We are busy. We are tired. We're struggling with sleep, and all of these sort of things. And that is because our life is just so full of things. Now, one of the comments that I've heard many, many times across different mediums. I've seen it on YouTube videos. I've heard it in songs. I've heard it in lots of different things. I've heard it read it in lots of books. I've heard of it in books. Well, I do listen to audio, so I can hear it in books as well. Is around this concept of a human doing and a human being. And we're supposed to be human beings, so that means sometimes we just need to be. Not be anything particular, just be. Just be in our own skin, be in our own space, be in our own environment, and just be and relax. We don't need to do all the time. It's just not how we are built. If you go back further and further in terms of time frames, and you see what people were doing even back then. Now, one thing they didn't have is they didn't have light in the evenings where they could do things and continue to work, or continue to be busy, or do the ironing, or whatever, cleaning, or whatever else that we need to do. Once the sun went down, candles didn't offer that much light, or we didn't even have candles, so you actually went to sleep, or you might have talked, I suppose. I don't really know. I wasn't there, so I don't know what they did. But time stopped. Light wasn't there. You couldn't do too much, so you had to stop. You filled the day, and then the evening you slept, or you did your own thing. So that doing part was then sort of stopped very quickly, whereas now evenings allow us to keep on doing and doing and doing and doing until we basically fall into bed, hopefully fall asleep, and then wake up. And a lot of times people wake up exhausted. They've not actually had that sleep that is recharging, because their mind is still going through all the things that they've either done or still got to do. So we are still even busy in our sleep, because we're still worried about the things that we haven't done or that we need to do in the future. So this idea of busyness is something that we need to sort of take a hold of. It's something that I've had to sort of think about a little bit, and sometimes, There's two concepts here that I've had to sort of struggle with. One is about wasting time. Doesn't mean you're bored, and it doesn't mean you actually are wasting time. So when you're sitting there and you're having a coffee, sitting there reading a book, sitting there listening to music, sitting there watching your favorite show or watching any show. It doesn't have to be your favorite show, but just watching a show, whether it's TV, Netflix, movies, whatever. When you're sitting there just watching the sunset, all of those things allow your mind just to switch off and get away from that busyness. So that's one of those things that when you are really being, you're a human being at that point in time. And then when you are that human doing, maybe just have a look through all the stuff that you actually have to do and make sure that they actually are important things for you to do. As I've said to a lot of the people that I've sort of mentored and managed and things over the time, a lot of times the things are still going to be there tomorrow, whether you need to do, and you need to sort of work out, are these things actually important to do, or can they wait, or are they just not important to do at all at this point in time? Or can I do them less frequently? Or can I work with somebody else to get these done? How can I get rid of all this doing that I need to do? How can I work through it so that it's a lot more easier and I can be a human being for some of that point in time? So there's two concepts here. One is, don't think that wasting time is actually a bad thing, because it's not. It's actually a good thing for your soul and just for your mental health. You're wasting time looking after yourself. And then the other one is, when you're doing, look at whether these things are important, or whether they are, or whether somebody can help you. Sometimes something shared can be something that is then easier to do at another time. So this concept of busyness, it's something that I've seen and heard all the time, and it's probably only the last 20 years that this has really taken off, that everything is busy. And I think it's something that you also need to look at within your own life to sort of see, is there something that I can really do here to potentially ward off that busyness and look after myself a little bit more? So this one was probably a bit more of a rant. So I hope you sort of realised where we were heading in the end. And I thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to listen to me for a while. Hopefully it's given you something to reflect upon. Hopefully you'll sort of think about yourself, and hopefully you'll try to be a human being a little bit more, because being human is being kind, looking after yourself, and also looking after those people around you, and making sure that you're not making them into human doers as well. That was it. That was easy to say. Anyway, look after yourself. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.